Okay, so this next video is on some of the other little mechanical bits that got changed around that you probably want to be aware of. Not about the classes specifically, but more about the things around the classes. So first of all, Javelin's its own set now. We went back to Footman, so you can see that on the chart. Then the new chart has fixed that up. Tradecraft's got a little bit of a adjustment. I added a little bit of just some interesting things with Tradecrafts, where a teacher can operate as you can operate as a guild trainer for standard classes and Tradecrafts. So this just means you can operate as the guild, receive money to train people, but you're still operating as the guild. You're not necessarily technically teaching somebody on your own. You're just sort of being the intermediary. And it's for any standard classes, which is the 15 base, and then any Tradecrafts that are standard, or Tradecrafts that you have, actually, it says. Performing arts is the one that you actually got this little buff to it that actually is really interesting, and I'm interested to see how it plays. It's something I've always wanted to add to the game. So performing arts got this buff where not only can you impress or distract players your level or less, but also it increases your effective level versus a chosen craft. Now that's very specific. So when you choose performing arts, you say, I'm gonna, I'll be a musician, and I'll take some musician levels, but then you also get to increase your effective level towards, say, I'd like this to protect me against, say, courtier, right? So that means that your effective level is also increased by that much whenever someone tries to courtier you. It doesn't mean you have courtier that level. It means that if someone tries to courtier you, you get to count your performing arts level as your base level in whether or not it affects you. And the idea is that if you're really good at acting, then your core may be better at lying, so Peacekeeper wouldn't work, and all these other things like that. So we'll see how that works. It becomes a really big, defense basically against a lot of the tradecrafts that target you. So we'll see if that ends up being, too strong. We can adjust it if we decide it is, because there's a lot of abilities that ramp with that. Centaur got a kind of a nerf a little bit too. Centaurs now just have a condition they have where they have to modify their clothing and their armor, and to wear it, and that costs 2 times the base cost of the item. Now, this doesn't mean that they can't wear some suit of armor that they just find magic items and stuff. It just means they need to modify it. So when they find a magic item, they're expected to then pay half its cost in gold to kind of like adjust it and get it customized for them. And so this is just something they have to do whenever they find armor, because it doesn't fit a horse person, and that's a little more intuitive. We used to have this rule in the game actually years ago. We just got rid of it because it was a little bit funky for Junior League, and now I want to bring it back because it currently they don't really have any flaws, so it was nice to bring one in for Centaur. The other changes that you see a lot in terms of mechanical stuff, I added pre-training into the book, so you can see where nothing's changed about it, but pre-training exists. And vine damage got added to the book too, just so that because we've been using it for years, it just wasn't in the book. There are a lot of other little changes like that I'm not going to go through, because there was literally thousands of little changes I had to make, and hours and hours of free formatting of information in the book that just needed to be reorganized. The Treasury Charts have new words in them. I tried to catch all the doubles. I think I missed one in life, which was divinity, and it should have been celestial. So celestial, the word celestial, it would be up there at that LP10 on life. And then I figured out a solution to the water situation with moving through water for big creatures. So there's a section on water where it says that creatures that are size 5 plus, when they step into water, they're immobilized. They can't move, but they don't necessarily drop. They just hit the water and then they're immobilized. They can't move. And then they can take a step every 20 count. And then undead are similar in that way because they're not drowning, right? They're in the water, maybe really deep, but they don't drown, so they don't have to focus on trying to stay afloat. So they can actually do the same thing. So this just makes it really consistent. If something's size 5, if something's an undead that doesn't have a respiratory system, then they hit water, they immobilize, and then they can take a 20 count to take 1 step, and then slowly make their way back out of the water. But of course not if you're attacking them. So that's how water's going to work this time around. We'll see if that makes it feel more realistic to the situations that we have. I updated the strengths chart a little bit, but just by adding terminology for it, names for the different types of strength. The term strength, which centaurs used to have, is now called beastly strength, evoking kind of an animalistic level of strength. And then it goes up from there, with improved strength, giant strength. And then the one above that, which didn't have a name, is now called supernatural strength. And then we have monster strength, of course, and the one above that is called colossal strength. So that's just to help us have terms for things so that when we're quick referencing stuff, we don't wonder like what exactly is this level of strength and how does it work. I updated the very high intelligence predicted chart too, and there's one on there that says prevent effects that strike your wielded items. In my terminology, usually wielded items I imagine to be like your sword, your shield, not your armor, your clothes, etc. That's not wielded in my book. Technically, I guess it is, but for this terminology, it certainly isn't. It should be held items, although held kind of doesn't imply a shield as much, so that's why I chose wielded. But that's how that should be written, is that it's things you're actually physically holding out here, not stuff that's on your body. There's a couple other little fixes there, like reflecting immobilizations instead of just resisting them, because resisting them is kind of moot in a lot of situations when you're that powerful of a creature. And then there's a whole new section on metals that Jeremy Cohen wrote up and added to the book for me, all the different types of metals, what's known about them anyway, and so that people can have access to that knowledge and know what different types of metals exist in the game. I added lingering flaws to the book too, so that means a flaw that when you use the item, then it stays on you after you've used it. We've been using that term a lot, but it just wasn't in the book, so people didn't know how it worked. I also made a point of saying that each player chooses 3 domains when they're for their blessing situation, that they choose 3 domains that they associate with beliefs of their divinity, and they can only use those 3 domains to determine abilities and flaws for their abilities related to their deity. And I made a point to say that they choose those 3 because the way you decide to interpret your divinity, is people may worship a deity in a different way. You certainly have to justify that this domains you're picking do represent your deity. You can't just pick whatever 3 you want and then say, oh yeah, it's definitely the elder goddess, or it's definitely Artemis, right? Totally Poseidon. Poseidon is definitely a crafting and fire god. You're like, no, right? So you have to make them make sense, but I'm not going to tell you which ones they are. You have to pick the 3, and that makes it much more efficient when it comes to NPCs, people playing monsters. They can pick the 3 that they, make sense for the deity they're worshiping, and they can be slightly different. Even if you're worshiping the same deity, you have slightly different domains because of how you worship, or how what your character's beliefs are. Now, big change with a lot of updates to the divine chart. Now, we don't really use it the same way we used to. There's a lot of changes to it, but it's not used for divine divine gift anymore. But it is used for blessing, and it's used for pact. And even if you want to use bless self and pact to be customs, usually those are customs for players. I mean, we're probably not going to use those as much for customs for NPCs. So we need to have a sort resource for all the characters or NPCs people run into that have a resource like this. And plus, characters may also opt to have a simpler version where they don't have to make some custom thing that might blow up in their face. So they can build something off of here. So I've really updated this chart a lot. I can go through all the details of the changes with it, but there's a lot there to go through. Most of the main thing to remember is that things don't stack from this chart. So you can't get things twice on the chart. If you've already got one thing on the chart, you can't get it again. That's the main important part about the chart. The righteous auras all got updated a lot. That's a big update, and how they all work. I can go over how they changed, but I think I need to do that in a separate video. All right, that's it for now.